Hello everyone, I'm Chester44 and welcome to this Let's Play of Blades of Avernum. Last episode we started hearing the Knight's Tale in this collection of tales from the Tabard Inn. He happened to find a merchant in trouble who he went and saved, bringing him over to an inn to keep him safe. He then went back to to the temple he spent his time in, only to find that it was ransacked and everyone inside killed. He managed to find out from a scavenger who happened to do it, and he's there to go deal with them right now. Let's see how this goes. Shantytown. The brigands were gathered around a bonfire in the center of their shantytown, celebrating with a cask of wine and a crate of dried fruit stolen from the chapel. They didn't have to steal it. The Order gives away everything they have to those that need it. It was just senseless. They hadn't set a guard, didn't need to, there's nobody out there to challenge them, and didn't notice my presence until I was standing in the light of the campfire. One of them demanded I identify myself. I told him I was here to see Half-Axe, that I had a score to settle with him, and that standing between us would be a death sentence. He spit into the fire and laughed as he drew a curved scimitar. Big mistake. I believe they ran... Oh, maybe not. Hey, get back here, you! How did that even... The last of the bandits fell dead. They were not men of the sword, they were peasants who turned to preying on their fellow man when times got hard. They came home at night with the fruits of other men's toils and fed their families. Their wives cowered in their pathetic shanties and listened to their men die, all because they wouldn't make it on their own work, or couldn't. It was almost pitiful. Now I assume we look through the town for Half-Axe. He's likely in one of these shanties. Probably not one of the small ones, it wouldn't make sense. Which is why I'm going to check them first. I'd come to find this Half-Axe and deliver justice, not to search through the filthy holes that these bandits call homes. Okay then. Half-Axe's home was a tall wooden structure, a palace compared to the rest of this dump. The brigand chief himself was much the same. An average man, only impressive because of the piteousness of the rest of his rabble. He wielded a large battle-axe, and unlike his fellows he seemed to at least know which end to hit people with. Wait for them to come in. Half-Axe was dead, slain by my hand. I wasn't satisfied, really. I don't know if I was expecting to be. The Blue Needles were rid of another band of these parasites, but I didn't feel like I'd accomplished anything. I couldn't protect the chapel. You can kill them all you want, but you won't save anything. You won't change anything. There will always be more to take their place. There will always be men who decide they'd rather steal than work, and I hate them for it. Half-Axe had his most impressive trophies hanging on the wall over his bed, but the star was not among them. There was a box in the corner where he kept his trinkets, a chest of junk and chintzy tokens. That was where I found the star. He knew it wasn't gold or anything valuable, just a bronze star with 7 points for 7 virtues. It wasn't worth hanging on the wall. It was in the box of junk where it belonged. I picked it up anyway. It meant something at some point. The backwoods trail I'd followed in pursuit of the bandits had taken me within half a mile of the Grey Road, near the south gate of Sigasal. It was growing dark by then, and I couldn't bear to stay the night in the chapel. I knew I should have stopped at the city to sleep. It had been a long day, and both my mind and body were exhausted. But for some reason I knew I wouldn't be able to relax until I'd brought the star back to the chapel. Sounds silly, doesn't it? Not really. I had just spotted the gray road, which meant it would be easy traveling there from there to the chapel. I might make it before night truly settled in. Those thoughts fled though the instant I saw who was standing on the road. There was a white-robed woman tending a tired cart horse. For a moment I thought I was seeing ghosts. Adriana? I couldn't even form the words at first, but finally I grasped her name. She started and turned from her work. I hardly dared to breath lest she disappear like the rest. But it really was her. We stood staring at each other, she wearing her order robe stained by dirt and travel, I wearing my blood-stained cloak. We were frozen like that for what seemed like minutes before we simultaneously rushed to embrace. It was really her. I couldn't believe that my eyes weren't playing tricks on me until I could actually feel her.
Logan, it's so good to see you, finally. It's been so long. So much has happened. I don't know how to even begin. The chapel, it was attacked. Oh God, I can't even think about it.
I already saw. You don't have to.
It was terrible. Father Kay and the others, I don't think any of them got out. I'm so glad at least you're here. It's been so hard today. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do.
What are you going to do now?
I'm heading to the Tabard Inn, but I don't know what I'll do after that. I've done a lot of thinking today, and I have a lot more to do. I'm not sure of anything anymore. Father Kay, the chapel, the order, it's all gone. What about you? What will you do?
At this point, she finally took in the gory state of my armor.
What in the world have you been doing?
I have something to take care of. Unless you want me to stay with you, of course.
No.
She shot a glance over the cart behind her, finally calling my attention to it and its contents. There was a human form lying in the back. It was a man in a black suede tunic, although his face was turned away to prevent me from identifying him.
No. I think I'm all right. Yes, we'll be all right.
Then I'll see you and him when I'm done.
He's a friend of mine. I'll introduce you one of these days.
She gazed at the cart with an odd mix of warmth and simultaneously distaste? She quickly glanced away as if somehow repelled.
So the Tabard Inn. Be safe until then.
I wanted like anything to leave with her right then and never think of the chapel again, but the feeling that I had unresolved business persisted. Sigasalo South Gate, 1.5 miles north. The Tabard Inn, 5 miles east. The beggar had departed with his spoils. Night had fallen, and the chapel was empty again. It crossed my mind that it would be like this forever now that there was no more order. Everything was right again. I'd hung the emblem on the wall behind the altar. The incense and prayer book were in their appointed place. The golden chalice looked like it had just been polished. Everything was in its place and as it should be. But if everything was as it should be, then why was the chapel strewn with bodies? It didn't make sense. I'd set everything back to the way it ought to be, but it was all as wrong as when I left. The seven-pointed star stood behind the altar to remind everyone of the importance of the seven virtues. Purity, restraint, generosity, diligence, patience, selflessness, and compassion. They were all there, but everything was so wrong. The star, the wreckage, the bodies, the screaming women, the dressed-up peasants, it was all wrong. So wrong. It was all so ordered there, but the moment I stepped outside the chapel, it all fell apart. Theo, the bandits, the nameless beggar, everything I did fell apart. I was the one with all the lofty ideals. Still no better than the rest. It didn't work. Order doesn't work. The order didn't work. I wept then. I told you I'd tell you when I wept. His story finished, Logan returns to his silent brooding. All things considered, his mood is probably justified. Thank you for sharing that with me. He doesn't respond for a while, as though your words have to sink through layers upon layers of thoughts before they reach his conscious mind. Finally, though, he speaks. And thank you for listening, Bard. There aren't many people I'd share that with. They're all gone now. And the ones that are left, the one that is left, I don't think this is a tale I'll be wanting to remember after tonight. I understand. Good night. And thus concludes The Knight's Tale. A sad story in a way. He accomplished his revenge and returned the chapel to how it should have been, but it just didn't help. Not enough. It seems like we saw several of the other characters we're going to encounter in there. The merchant, it looked like, may have been the one who was saved by the knight. The priestess obviously was someone from the chapel who encountered him on the way. The bounty hunter was the one who was attacking the merchant, it looked like. As for who was in the priestess's cart, it could have been either the prisoner or the bounty hunter. I don't know who. Either way, the merchant is the next one we have to go speak with. He's up here. Let us sit and speak. A man sits by himself here, quietly picking over a plate of boar and stew. He's a lean, well-muscled man, but he must have a hearty appetite, as there is a stack of several empty plates next to him. He wears clothes befitting one of the merchant class, though his simple and close-fitting garb is a bit more dirty than you'd normally expect to see on a merchant's back. You wonder if he'd mind some company, and notice that he doesn't have anything to drink. Hopefully he's just not one to drink alone, not abstaining. Would you like to share a pitcher? The man looks up at you. After sizing you up for a few moments, he pulls out the chair beside him and motions for you to sit. Certainly. A round of ale would really hit the spot. Something crosses his mind, bringing him to a sudden halt. Provided you're buying, that is. Of course. I'll provide the booze, you provide the conversation. That's a deal I'll take any time. You call to the bar, and a pitcher of dark brown ale and 2 glasses arrive shortly. I have no idea how that hits the spot, friend. Been a bit down on my luck of late, and I had to pull all the strings I could just to get a room for the night. Ale just wasn't part of the budget. He takes a long, slow swig before continuing. I guess you'll be wanting to chat now. That's the deal, right? Well, I can hold my own in a storytelling match. In my line of work, you pick up tales bizarre enough for even the most jaded of bards. Usually I'm not at liberty to tell any of them, though, which is a shame because they really are great stories. The Silver Steed Post likes to keep private information like that. Well, private. But you're in luck, because I'm pretty sure that after all that's happened today, they aren't my employers any longer. From what I've heard, killing your customers is frowned upon. I like where this is going. The Merchant's Tale. One moment. Alright, let's, non-identified potion and a healing potion. Shielding bracelet. Handy. Fists. Okay. Red tunic. A ribbon. Cast curing level 100. That's interesting. An Ankh. Gives sanctuary. And pants. You know what? Actually, no, I take it back. Still not sure what the potion is, but anyway. I work, soon to be worked, for a dispatch service, the Silver Steed Post. Might have heard of us, we work out of Sweetmarsh. Anyway, I was one of their best couriers, which means I got selected for some real high-profile jobs. Or low-profile, rather. Nothing the Silver Steed does is high-profile. That's the whole reason our clients use us. This particular dispatch was from a wizardry guild in Cyprus. They did a lot of deliveries with us and were one of our biggest clients. They requested that this particular package be delivered by the best man we had, which is how I wound up driving a merchant's cart down the road to Sigurdsel yesterday morning. That was when things started getting weird. Good morning, Master Merchant. That's a fine cart you've got there. Think you've got room for another beside you? Having armed men appear out of nowhere is remarkably commonplace in my profession. Not really even worth mentioning, except that usually they don't greet you kindly and ask for a ride. Yeah, sure. Thanks. The man was clearly a bandit or highwayman of some sort, but I had nothing to fear from him, even if his intentions were ill. You don't rise to my position at the Silversteed Post if you don't know how to handle yourself. Besides, I was rather curious as to who this man was. Like I said, it's not every day a bandit greets you and cordially requests a ride. As he climbed up to the seat next to me, he reached out to shake my hand. The name's Sly, Christopher Sly. What brings you here, Sly? He'd already turned around to inspect the contents of the cart behind us. Gave a little whistle. Wow, a lot of stuff back here. What's in all these crates? He didn't wait for an answer before cracking open one of the lids. Loathing, eh? Shame I already decided I wouldn't rob anyone today. I'm not really a man to go back on a resolution like that. It's tempting fate, you know, and fate's been good to me of late. It's a shame, though, you have a lot of nice things back here. Say, you don't think I could just take a shirt or something, do you? One day when I'm cold and hungry, I'll look back and say, should have robbed that guy when I had the chance. But if I get that shirt, then I won't have anything to regret. Plus, if I had the shirt, I wouldn't be cold. Yeah, that'd be the perfect solution. Help yourself. The clothes weren't the point of my trip. They were just cheap fabrics dyed gaudy colors to look valuable. All part of the merchant facade. If you want to go by unnoticed as a merchant, you have to have some goods. They were next to worthless, and certainly not worth the trouble of selling once I got to Sigasal. The real value was in the package that was under my seat, or in the payment I'd get for delivering that package, rather. Sly was pretty happy about the clothes, though, which was fine with me because he was providing to be an amusing fellow. Well, thanks a lot. Hey, you have a bit of an accent. Where are you from? I'd like to visit this land where merchants just give their goods away. He chuckled at his own joke, but I didn't have time to respond. We hadn't ridden more than a mile before we were suddenly attacked. A dagger struck Sly in the arm, sending him tumbling from the cart. I didn't even have time to turn towards the source, the forest to the north, before I too was hit. It was fear dust. It was too late, though. I had already inhaled. I knew I only had a split second of rational thought before the toxins clouded my mind. I stood and prepared myself to leap from the cart, but just as I did so, the panicked cart horse bucked. I was hurled from the cart and landed heavily on a rock. I must have blacked out for a moment. When I came to, Sly had disappeared and our assailant was standing over me. Everything was blurred and distorted. I knew that it was the toxin affecting my mind, but I could not fight the overwhelming terror of it all. It was paralyzing. I could not stand to fight or defend myself in any way but to cringe away. What a shame. Are you all right? I don't remember much of what happened after that. When I came to, I was sitting in a chair at an inn. I had no idea how I got there. There was a bowl of soup in my hands. It was half eaten. I had no idea how that got there. My head was gradually becoming clear. Everything around me was no longer terrifying, but it was somewhat blurry nonetheless. Whenever I quickly turned my head, the room would spin, and I had a splitting headache. Outside, I could see that it was night. The toxin must have been a particularly potent one to keep me dazed for so long. Most of the inn's customers had already gone home, except a few stragglers and a shady group of men at a nearby table. The innkeeper came over to check on me and refill my bowl of soup. I asked her what was going on. So that's what happened with the night. We saw that. We were part of it. Alright, let's speak. Can I get you another bowl of soup? The innkeeper inquired. I handed the half-empty bowl to her without thinking, although I wasn't really hungry. I'm not sure how many bowls I'd already eaten. She poured the soup, then handed it back to me with a forced, awkward smile. She didn't seem like the friendly type, but she was trying hard enough. What am I doing here? Your friend brought you in about, 3 hours ago. Said you had a run-in with some bandits and needed caring for. My friend? Who are you talking about? Tall warrior with brown hair and a long mustache, built like an ox. Sound familiar? Tall warrior. Dim memories were beginning to return. I remembered leaning on the fellow's shoulders as we walked, but not much else. The innkeeper rambled on. I figured he must have cared pretty much about you because he paid a small fortune for me to take care of you. Then he just took off. Don't know where he was going at this time of night. I wondered to myself where he came from and who this man was. These thoughts were pushed aside for the moment, though, as I suddenly remembered something very important. The package. I leapt to my feet, causing the bowl of soup to crash to the floor and my head to spin. A heavy hand on my shoulder forced me back down into the seat. I looked up to find that I was surrounded by the group of men that had occupied the nearby table. Not so fast, little fellow. Your friend there had quite a handsome coin purse. Me and the boys here thought you might help us get a hold of it. One of the other bandits snickered. The speaker's hand lingered on my shoulder, pressing me down. Said he'd come by to check on you and pay Margaret here the other half of her money. That's good. That's fine. But we was thinking we'd maybe take the rest of it, for providing such good protection for you while you were sick. You're just going to have to stay put for a while. Oh, I like that bracelet you have there. Mind if I have a quick? I didn't have time for this bullshit. An extremely valuable package was lying in the road somewhere, and I couldn't rest until I had it. I took a deep breath to try to clear my head. Then struck. I struck the bandit's wrist and was rewarded with the sound of snapping bone. He recoiled and howled with pain, cradling his ruined hand. His fellows put up a shout and drew their weapons. Foggy head or no, I had a fight on my hands. Apologies for the awkwardness. Back to beating these guys. Kinda near dead here, so if you don't mind. Scrubs. Alright. Well, we managed to accomplish that. The goal now would... I had more important things to do. Namely, find that package before somebody else did. Yes. But here, I'm going to end this episode. A little shorter, perhaps, but this seems like a decent point to pause. Next episode, we'll run out to find that package. There's probably going to be a lot more that's going to be happening soon. That'll be in the next episode, so until then, I'm Chester44. That is a merchant. This has been a Blades of Avernum Let's Play, and I shall see you all next time.